The Great War, the name of one of the most devastating wars of all time, but not quite as greatly bad as the Second World War, which is deemed the worst one yet, but has already been covered by that retro title, Battlefield 1942. However, if YouTube votes are anything to go by, Battlefield 1 might truly turn World War 1 into the Great War, with the most likes on a trailer ever. With the spirit of this popularity ballot in mind, I did the only democratic thing and ran a Twitter poll to see if people wanted a Battlefield 1 video from me. 53 people voted, 53% wanted it, 19% didn't, and 28% liked mayonnaise. Now, I wouldn't like not to deliver, so here it is, the eggy nectar of the gods, mayonnaise. Jokes aside, a lot has come to light about this World War I simulator, and whilst I wasn't among the creme de la creme invited to the official launch at E3, I've been able to siphon official footage, gauge widespread opinions, and form some from my own mug. Off the bat, I want to say a lot of my worries about any carryover from Battleflop seem to have been soothed, so what's it brung to the table? Well, one big point is traditional Conquest Mode player counts. We are back to the staple of 64 combatants. Sure, it isn't an increase, but I was worried for a reduction. And when coming from the MMO FPS Planetside 2, Battlefield games always do seem a little sparse. Ever since DICE announced that Battlefield 2 would have 100 players before release, I have waited patiently for the franchise to actually try it, but it has not come to be. However, to counteract this, they have a lot of tricks up their sleeve for great player immersion. The Frostbite engine seems to have taken some big bounds in what we have seen so far, with tanks being able to blow holes or simply drive through most buildings and obstacles on the map. So the map is ever evolving as the firefights go on, with cover and hiding holes changing all of the time. The damage engine doesn't stop at buildings. Planes and tanks have locational damage that can hinder the vehicles. Think location-based damage on tank and flight sims. They say that the tank stuff was still in development, however we can see the plane damage in action, with wings being shredded and flapping against air resistance. Whilst I'm on this topic, the addition of the airship, a giant player-controlled behemoth, first gives us one of the biggest controllable vehicles in a Battlefield game since the aircraft carriers. But also acts as a dynamic part of Levolution. Once destroyed, the airship crashes to the ground, destroys buildings and cover below, and replaces them with a jungle of steel girders to act as a new combat zone. But wait, it is also a last-ditch rope for the losing side, so when one team comes very close to losing, the airship will spawn to try and give the losers some way of coming back, whilst also acting as the final hurdle for the winning team. Not that I am completely convinced that this is the right concept to reward the losers, however a problem being players switching to the winning side in previous titles, this might give some incentive to stick around and see a game to the end on one team. The map shown also had a dynamic weather system rolling mist and rain into the battlefield to accompany an already volumetric atmosphere created by combat-related dust. This is quite a jaw-dropping feature, but I wonder how it will fare on lower systems and whether players wanting to be competitive might turn the setting down or off completely. Either way, it is one tool for keeping the illusion of a battle with just 32 folks on each side. On the graphics note, everything really does look next gen. Good lighting, some great textures, and it would seem the trailers really were mostly taken from scripted game elements. Sure, there could be some Ubisoft downgrade syndrome at play, but DICE are generally good at putting out what they show off. On the other hand, history buffs might be a little disappointed. Whilst it sure looks like World War I on the surface, the buzzword from DICE is inspired by. With plenty of automatic weapons and flying tanky zeppelins, it's hard to call it a reenactment. That is fine though, for the thrill seekers, fun mechanics will probably trump historical congruity. The mechanics have gotten a little more real, with the ability to finally open doors and pole vault over low obstacles. We truly have stepped into a new generation. Maybe we'll also get some more uncompressed pixels. There were a few concerns which seemed to come from most that played it. First, how powerful tanks were and how hard they were to counter. Partly this seems to come from the new class system, with only the assault having strong anti-vehicle capabilities, where C4 and other explosives are lacking on other classes. However, vehicles are a limited resource in the fights, so their ability as a force multiplier is always something for debate. With some research on tanks, I found the Little Willy, also known as the British Mark I tanks. Some interesting modern connotation for that, but this is a mature channel. Actually, it seems a lot of the first tanks deployed simply broke down, which is quite funny, and doesn't seem to be a problem with Battlefield 1 tanks. Not to mention the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning, heat exhaustion with temperatures of 50 degrees upwards, and needing to wear medieval looking chainmail masks to protect you from ricocheting bullets. Actually, it is probably best they didn't quite catch this part. The announcer seems like a placeholder at the moment, and they have the old phonetic alphabet with words like butter. With a deadpan female announcer, it is a little off at the moment. I think some jolly good Brit bombardier voice would suit it very well. Tally-ho! Butter is being attacked! The use of automatic weapons has been pulled up by players too, with a higher recoil that is hard to control with burst firing that players consider skill. Perhaps this is part of DICE's period conundrum with the one hand setting and the other hand gameplay, but either way it's something I need to feel myself to reserve judgment. However, non-automatic weapons have received buffs in muzzle velocity, meaning that we might see a different type of gunplay dominate, unlike that of the modern shooters dominating this generation. On that note, I am looking forward to Battlefield 1, a breath of fresh air, sidestepping outside of Modern Warfare's shadow. It genuinely does look fun, but knowing EA, there is always some danger. Well, actually, they have already announced that the French, an extremely prominent force in the war, will be DLC. I mean, come on! It's the French. They were such a big part of the WW1 SmackDown. Or maybe that is just what the execs at EA are thinking, seeing as they originally thought people wouldn't want to play a World War I game, because players were too young to know about it. I mean, I don't think anyone who has a smidgen of education in just a little bit of history doesn't know something about World War I. I mean, it was a pretty big deal. But hey, the more realistic angle is that it is a marketing push. Execs want to have America even though their involvement was short-lived because they are a massive market. The same with the Russians. Why not cut some French by the wayside? I'm sure the Aussies, Canadians and other ex-Commonwealth folk will have fun playing the Brits. With only a handful of announced maps so far, it is a slight worry this game is going to be another taster hidden behind premium editions, DLC and more crap AAA companies are getting away with now. And we are stuck with this dreaded abbreviation that has replaced the now godlike expansion pack system. I really hope EA take note of the feeling of the consumers here and try to change that. Either way, I will likely be there as soon as they allow me. I know I've said some bad things, but early access would be nice, EA. To really give a fair picture of what the game is like and if it lives up to everyone's expectations or doubts. What does everyone else think? Are you on the hype Zeppelin already, or do you have some doubts in your mind? If you thought this video was great, give it a like. If you thought it was as bad as being stuck in a World War I tank called the Little Willy with someone with flatulence problems, give it a dislike. And if you enjoyed the content and want to see more, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching everyone. Until next time, Joshino.